Alright, here at 6 Degrees we've covered a lot of characters getting nerfed in Marvel movies, new and old. Nerfing, also known as the adaptational wimp trope, also known as when the character you love in the comics for being a badass turns up in a movie only to be a poorly fleshed out side character, operating at a fraction of their power due to realism, or just not respected enough. Recently we covered the X-Men and one was left out, possibly because I didn't think to add him, but maybe it's because he deserves his own video. The character who is perhaps the most nerfed of all of them, and with one of the most interesting power sets. It's Armando Muñoz, it's Darwin. So Darwin has such an interesting power. His mutant ability is to evolve to protect himself. So in the instance that something is about to happen to harm him, his body adapts to it. No matter what you throw at Darwin, his body just deals with it. It started when he was a kid. He looked a little bit strange and his dad left, so his mum wasn't very nice. So harsh on the poor kid. He wanted to impress her so badly that his mutation adapted his intelligence to score off the charts, so he ends up at a hoity-toity school. While at this school, more intolerance, being bullied by the other kids with a dreaded swirly. We call this a bogwash in England. Either way, it's no problem for Darwin here though. He adapts to breathe underwater. He then needs to fight these no-good bullies, so his body makes his hands super hard. Very handy. So his mum still isn't being a great parent and she falls asleep with a cigarette in her hand. I won't say what we used to call cigarettes in England. So Armando picks her up and carries her out. His body makes his lungs handle the smoke, his eyes can see through the smoke, and his skin is impervious to the flames. Soon he gets on the X-Men's radar. He's actually taken in by Moira McTaggart, who herself pretty recently had her insane mutant power revealed. So the story goes like this. Professor X has sent a team to look into a big mutant signature that he found. Turns out that was Krakoa, a mutant island thing. The team goes there and gets kidnapped by Krakoa, oh no! So in the 70s, this is when all the international X-Men were introduced. Colossus, Storm, Thunderbird, Nightcrawler, Banshee, Sunfire, and a little guy called Wolverine. And they went and saved the OG team and blasted Krakoa into space. But in 2005, we saw another side to this story. Before this international team was sent out, Professor X had tried another team, made up of some young guns who were all under Moira McTaggart's care. This included Vulcan, Cyclops and Havoc's other brother, Time Manipulator Sway, Terrakinetic Petra, and our old mate Darwin in a lovely smoking jacket. They're so young and inexperienced, but Charles doesn't care. He trains them up super quick using mental powers and sends them off. Not before getting the most skin-tight outfits in all of comics. Sway making Darwin feel very uncomfortable asking him how she looks. No, they don't leave much to the imagination, Armando. So they get to the island and they get the shit kicked out of them. And during all the ruckus, Sway and Petra die, and so Darwin and Vulcan get absorbed into Krakoa. Darwin's mutant ability kicks in and he absorbs the remains of Petra and Sway and converts himself to pure energy and then bonds with Vulcan. So when Krakoa is then blasted into space, that's where Vulcan, with Darwin inside him, remains dormant. Then there's this whole thing about how Professor X wiped Cyclops' memory of his brother sacrificing himself to save him, Charles isn't a mutant anymore, and Vulcan was raised to be a slave by the Shi'ar, and during this explanation of events, Vulcan's single-handedly kicking the shit out of the X-Men. But we're here to talk about Darwin. So when Scarlet Witch has had enough and declares no more mutants, the energy from all those mutants getting depowered awakens Vulcan, and that's when he comes back to unravel all this stuff about Krakoa. Rachel Summers, who's then Phoenix and Cyclops' daughter from another universe and is basically Phoenix with a trendy crop top. She uses her powers to extract Darwin from Vulcan's brain. So Darwin is just pure energy at this point. But then when Beast takes him back to the mansion, he starts reforming his body. Beast and Professor X can't bloody believe it. This is how powerful his mutant power is. Some more great examples. Charlie gets kidnapped later by the Shi'ar, them with the weird hair, and Darwin stows away on the outside of the ship, his power allowing him to cling on and survive in space by removing the need for breathing. He gets shot with lasers on this mission, not a big deal, his body lets them go right through him. Orongan is pushing a knife against his throat to leave a little mark, so said throat just turns to rubber. He gets shot point blank, the bullets bounce off. He's in a containment thing of red goo, he gets super strength to punch his way out. M is being controlled and is about to kill him. He turns into a weird slime thing so she can't get a grip. Hela, the goddess of death whose touch will kill you, is about to do his team in. He just touches her and becomes a god of death with some magically crap clothes. Getting a little bit more ridiculous now, an old-timey style sheriff shoots him point blank in the head. Of course, he evolves to have a head in his chest. Okay. He's even evolved so that he doesn't need sleep, which is good because we all know sleep is the cousin of death. One of the most hilarious and probably apt uses of his power though is in World War Hulk. We know how hardcore World Breaker Hulk is, right? Well, if not, see this video on him and others. So he's attacking the X-Men, and Darwin evolves a gamma draining power, only it doesn't work because there's no limit to the gamma power in the Hulk. Nice try, powers. So Hulk lines up a punch, and Darwin's power decides that the only way to survive is to just not be there. He just teleports to the other side of the world. Amazing. More recently, he's had some shenanigans in the new version of Krakoa after Jonathan Hickman's reboot, and he's converted himself to living code recently, whatever that means. So in the official handbook for the comics, there's a power grid for characters that ranks everyone for intelligence, strength, speed, durability, energy projection, and fighting skills. Darwin is at the max for all of them, except fighting, all because of that bloody amazing power. I guess if he came up against someone like Shang-Chi, he wouldn't need fighting skills, he'd just evolve so that every blow landing on him would hit something either really hard or really soft. Or he would emit a gas from his lungs that would knock out Shang-Chi specifically. Oh, the possibilities for this character. So imagine how fans of Darwin felt with his representation in X-Men First Class. He's played by a very cool dude, Eddie Gathegi. He's handsome, he's pretty stacked, he's a good actor, which adds to the shame of his tiny role. We see him adapting to the water, just like in the comics. Good start, he's grown gills instantly. This in the middle of the painful scene where it shows just how hard it is to direct a bunch of actors trying to accurately portray young people chilling out and having fun. And don't get me started on what they do with Mystique in these films. He's also got some scale type things when he gets hit with the chair. Okay, doing alright. And then we get to see Darwin evolve to protect himself and Angel from Havoc's blast, again with the scales, pretty good. But then the travesty of travesties, Kevin Bacon. Oh hey, Kevin Bacon, 6 Degrees, first time we've mentioned him. As Sebastian Shaw uses his power to absorb the blast, and then in what is very different from the comics as far as I can tell, he takes that energy, bundles it up and places it ever so gently in Darwin's mouth after a pathetic punch attempt. So not only do I not understand why Darwin stood there and let him do that, you'd think he would evolve to incapacitate Shaw with no kinetic energy or something, I don't know. We've established I'm not a physicist. But his body then just can't handle this force being in him. Oh, should I be metal? Oh, should I be some kind of volcanic rock? Oh, I'm out of ideas now. Because his power is a sentient being, right? That's why he's having these thoughts, anyway. And why is it changing his clothes? So yeah, he apparently dies. Fox killed the basically unkillable mutant. There is a theory that he turned into energy, just like when Krakoa killed him in the comics, but he's not coming back, let's be real. First Class was overrated. There were some good bits.
Excuse me, I'm Eric Lensher.
Sounds Xavier.
Go fuck yourself.
But there were too many shit ones. So poor old Darwin and poor old Eddie Gathegi. He could have been a contender. He could have been a somebody. Anyway, I just had to cover this as a few people have pointed it out. So thank you very much, peeps. I've been Danny Baker, this is 6 Degrees, and I'll see you later.